Hello, my name is Elugene Otiede. I am a result oriented software. I am motivated by client satisfaction and client feedback. I am focused on achieving continuous and sustainable progress with the projects that I handle. I am a thoughtful person. I am thoughtful and deep, finely dynamic and active. I am passionate about programming and I am constantly seeking ways to be productive and impactful. When I am not coding, I am either watching tutorials or making tech tutorial. So I have just concluded the MVP phase of a very exciting project titled the Global Female Hackathon webpage. It is a simple web application. The Global Female Hackathon webpage is a responsive, functional, and very aesthetic website template designed and developed to help female hackathon organizers fulfill the goal of narrowing the gender gap, promoting diversity within the tech industry, and bringing together brilliant minds from around the world to collaborate, to innovate, and make a lasting impact. So, the design of this project is simple and very vibrant. So the layout contains sections to display vital information concerning the female hackathon project or body, right? So details as color contrasts, font sizes, the layout order, we're giving attention to in order to improve. So while developing this project, I considered certain factors to enable the users of this web app understand the website easily, navigate through the website pages easily, engage with the website, and also enable the users take important call to actions around the web app. The web app is easy to use, it is easy to understand, it's quite engaging, very simple, and with the aesthetic feature of this website, users can stay longer time or spend longer time on the website without getting tired or of the website or getting bored. So let's take a look at the directories and files contained in this project. So in this project, I've got a couple of directories and files that have enabled me achieve my goal of building a successful functional project. So here we have the GitHub workflow directory. The GitHub workflow directory contains a .yaml file that enables GitHub run and display the outcomes of necessary checks on the quality of codes pushed to the repository. Then I have a directory for documentation. This directory contains author.md files where authors, collaborators can document in detail their input and contributions to the project. So this allows the project to be easily managed, scaled, improved on, and maintained by future developers and contributors. Then I have the media directory that contains media files such as images, icons, and logos. I also have a directory called style sheets. So this directory contains the style sheets for this project that are responsible for the aesthetic and some functional rendering of this web app. Now I've got linter files on this project that help to check for syntax errors. And then I've got the README file that contains details about the project. I have files like the index.html file, the about .html file. So these files contains the HTML structure for the project. So all the HTML files contains the HTML structure for each of the pages in the. I've also got package.json file that holds information on the dependencies or or packages installed and the version numbers of. All right, so it's time to walk you through the project requirements for this project and to show you how I have implemented the project requirements in the project. So These are the project requirements for this project that were necessary for me to implement while working on this project. So the first one was to choose to work with a topic, right, different from the original design, UI design that was provided. And then the next requirement was to follow the design guidelines. The design guidelines around the colors, the typography, and the layout of the design. So I had to adhere to those design guidelines. And then the pages were meant to look identical to the original design that I was provided, although small adjustments like text and image changes were acceptable. And then I was told to also, it was not really required, but I was given the option to work with a CSS framework of my choice. And another of the project requirements stated was that the project should have only two active pages, that is the home page and the about page, at least for the MVP version, the viable, minimum viable product of the project. Then each of the pages were meant to have versions for two different screen sizes, which are the mobile screen up to 760 pixels wide and the desktop screen 760 pixels or wider. All right, and then another requirement specified for the project had to do with the links. The homepage should have a link in the menu to the about page, and the logo in the header links to the homepage. The logo in the header should link to the homepage. And for the menu, mobile menu, when the user clicks on the hamburger button on the header, the mobile menu appears over the page, all right? And the mobile menu should also have a close button that closes the menu. And the last requirement for the project stated that the section, that is the, all right, so that's the rundown of the required requirements for the project. And now I will show you how I've implemented these requirements while working on the project. So regarding the requirement to follow the design guidelines, here is the original UI provided for this project. So this is the desktop view where we have one landing section and a main program section here just for the UI, and which was required for me to also edit and customize to fit the project. And then we have a featured speaker section here. This is the layout of the section that needs to be dynamically created using JavaScript. And we have a partner section and then the footer. This is for the home page. And for the about page, we have a similar layout, the landing section, the main sections that contains more details about the, the web page, and we have the footer area. Now going to the mobile view, this is the home page for the mobile view, right? It's quite responsive. It contains the same layout, other than when you head to this feature speaker section, you have a more button. When clicked, should load more cards, more feature speakers. And for the about page, it's similar to the desktop, other than the footer has a white background on mobile view, and then there is a partner section on mobile view in the about page. But for the desktop view, the footer has a dark background and there is no, here it is, and there is no partner section for the desktop view. So those are the differences between the mobile and the desktop view. And last thing, for the navigation bar, on the mobile view, we have a hamburger, and for desktop, we just have the menus listed out in the navbar area. So to my project, um, this is the home page for the project. It contains the header section, and then that is the landing section. For desktop, it contains the menu items listed out like so, and then the landing section, similar to what we have on the UI presented for the project. And then we have this other section. I think I can switch. So we have this part here, in my project, we have it here. Okay. And for the featured judges section that we have here called featured speakers, here in my project, it is here, right? Okay. And then for the partner section here and the footer here, just as it is here on the design provided. That's how we have it on my own project here. So this is for the desktop view of the mobile of the homepage. This is the desktop view of the homepage. And now for the mobile view of the homepage. Okay, here we have the mobile view for the homepage. We have the same sections, right? And the same. Now for the on the design of the mobile page, we the requirement, the design guideline here states that we have a more button, and we have just this. We have just two cards displayed initially before the more button that needs to be clicked to have more of the cards displayed. So on my project, right, when I scroll down on refresh, I have just two cards displayed and the load more button, right? So now when I click on it, it gives me more of the cards displayed in the game. And now it changes from load more to view less. So when I click on view less, it takes me back to just two, the initial cards displayed. And it works that way. It's load more and then it's view less, and then takes us back. It collapses the section while the load more expands the section and the view less collapses the section. Now for the about page, the about page of my project is similar and follows the design guidelines for this project. The sections are same, and for the footer, for the desktop, we have the footer here with a dark background as the design. So we have the footer. This is the about page with dark background, and for the mobile version, it's expected to have the footer with a white background and then the partner section. So that on the project, it's so take you to the about page on the mobile view, and you'll see the white footer background here, the partner section there. And again, the on the mobile view, we have the hamburger here. There is the link to the homepage, and this is the homepage currently. And when you click on the hamburger, you can head to the about page as well. This section is the section that has been required to be dynamically generated using JavaScript. So I'll take you to the code. Okay, so here in the code, you will find that. So I'll take you to the index.html of this code base here. You'll find that in the featured judges section. While working on this project, I adhered to HTML and CSS best practices. For the HTML, I was careful to not add blank lines and indentations without any reason. Where I had blank lines, they were meant to separate large or logical code blocks. And for the sake of readability, I added two spaces of indentations, and I did that using the space key and not the tab key. Then I also ensured that all my tags were closed. I had the open tag and I had the close tag as well. Then I used lowercase for the elements and the attribute names. I also ensured that all the attribute values were always in the quotes, the double quotes. Then, with writing my attributes, I ensured that I had no space between the equal sign and the value of the attributes. In my project, while working on this project, I did not use inline styles. All my style definitions were set. Then I maximized the use of classes over IDs to enable me repeat or have the same style definition for multiple sections. While working on this project as well, I also did not commit old pieces of code as inline comments. I did not comment any code that I did not consider useful, and I didn't do that. And I was careful to not commit pieces of codes as online comments. And I was careful not to do that to make my project look less messy. So these are the HTML best practices that I added to while working on this project to enable that I maintained a good quality code and a neat code. So CSS selectors, uh, and so CSS selectors are used to get a hold of your target element in your CSS file so you can style them. We make use of CSS selectors, especially when you are not using the inline styling CSS method. So because in this project, I did not make use of the inline styling CSS method, I made use of the external method where I had an extra, a separate style sheet for the style definitions of the project. I had to make use of selectors to grab my target elements and style them. So here are the selectors. Here, most of the time, I made use of the class selectors to grab them. So I'm going to just walk you through. So this is the desktop footer section, and here I grab the footer using the tag name, and then this footer targets the container of the footer. So this is the container of the footer. It grabs this, and it helps me style, render or give style definitions for the container of the footer, and then so then the footer logo. So the footer section has three like two sections that needs to be rendered as a rendered horizontally. So we have the logo on one side, and then we have the text on one side. So I styled the footer logo by grabbing targeting the logo using the class attribute here. So that's how I grabbed it, called footer logo here, and specified the style rules. And then I moved over to style the other section that's meant for the text. Footer text was the value I placed in, or the name of the class here, footer text. The footer text is a section that houses the title and the copyright text. So I uh, use the class name selector and also define the styles. So while programming and using the JavaScript programming languages, you can store, or a programmer can store values in variables. And the programmer can store different data types like integers, characters, Boolean values, and all. And we another way that a programmer can store details, values, is using arrays. So in this project, it was part of the requirement to make use of JavaScript objects in storing the data or information for the featured dirty section as customized in my project. And so here on screen is the object, and objects would usually, these are the objects, object one, object two, object three, right here. So objects always have the key and objects always contain the key and the value separated with a key and value. Yeah. So as related to this project, because I needed to render separate cards containing this information. These are information for the first card, information for the second card, information for the third card, and so on and so forth. So the object holds such data and information for each of the cards. So one object is specific to a card, another object is specific to the card, and that leads us having an array of objects. So in order to access these values, first uh, I created the elements, the HTML elements, and then set their class names and appended the elements as necessary to their parent. And then when I was done doing the creation and appending, this is the major appending here. When I was done doing the creating of elements, the setting of the class name, and then the appending, I also went on to set the content for the elements needed, or to set the contents for the featured body section in the elements where the contents are meant to display, or yeah, I mean to display. And so I was able to access the contents that I have stored in the object here using the um, dot notation. I also, yeah, using the dot notation. So most times, because this is an array, the featured bodies array, in order to access the required card or the card to be displayed, I had the index here controlled by a for loop. So when the for loop index is 0, it means we are accessing the first card, and then using the dot notation, I could set the name, the intro, or the description, or the image. In this project, although it was part of the project requirement, um, it was indicated as an optional requirement to make use of CSS frameworks. Um, I had decided not to make use of any CSS framework in this project. But however, I want to talk about what a CSS framework is. A CSS framework is a prepped and ready to use CSS library, right? And the style sheets collection of a CSS framework makes the job of a UI developer easier, right? Rather than starting every project from scratch, a CSS framework gives the developer tools to quickly create a user interface that the developer can repeat and tweak during a project and other projects. On completion of this project, I created a pull request to enable code reviewers review the project to uh, check for possible adjustments, fixes, and corrections. When when I created the pull request for this project, I had a clear, useful, and condensed pull request title and description in my project. The title states here, develop and deploy front end of homepage and about page as the pull request title, and a condensed, useful, and clear but condensed description of the pull request, stating each of the sections or individual milestones that I had worked on while developing this project. So I have covered the major aspects of the presentation of this project. I've covered what the project is about, the goal of this project. I've also covered the requirements and shown how I have implemented these requirements in the project. Now, to wrap up this presentation, I will be solving a coding challenge to show more of to portray algorithmic thinking and my algorithmic thought process when trying to come up with solutions. Thereafter, so here we have an exercise called sum odd odd. The question says, given a positive norm, return the norm of all odd Fibonacci numbers that are less than or equal to sum. The first two numbers in the Fibonacci sequence are 1 and 1. Every additional number in the sequence is the sum of the two previous numbers. The first six numbers of the Fibonacci sequence are 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. So for example, um, this function subfix 10 should return 10 because all odd Fibonacci numbers. So first thing I want to highlight is what the question is about. Is from what I see, um, we are going to have sets of Fibonacci numbers within a range, and then we are meant to pick out the odd numbers in the range and sum them, then provide the sum of all the odd numbers of the Fibonacci sequence within a range. And the input here, we are working with integers, and the input here, okay, we're taking in an array, okay, and the array, the first two numbers in the sequence are 1 and 1. So we're taking 1 and 1, and then I think, yeah, we are going to output with our return. From what I see, we will return an integer. First, we need to get the Fibonacci sequence within a range, and the range specified here the as one of the test cases. So we are taking in the test case, and we are provided with two initial numbers in the Fibonacci sequence. So the test case comes in as the range that we are working with in the Fibonacci sequence comes in as a test case um, from the function, and then we have the first two numbers. So the first thing, knowing this, the first thing that I want to do is get the Fibonacci sequence. So I can call it and use it. So when I run this code, let's run. So we have an error there, and it says next is not defined. So going through the code, I can see that next here is um, is defined after being used. So it means I need to define it first. Let next equals. Okay, so that means I could just make it uh, run the way the alternative way. So let next just equal to the next value, and um, have a here. So while next is less than and equal to num, and we can have take this out of the way and have our first push. Then we'll test that, and we will update that. I will update this one, so it's updated, and so I get the next value. I push it in, I do the update, and then I get the next value again. So rather than pushing it there, I think I should push it here because I want to test if the next value is within the range, then I can push it into the array. Otherwise, I shouldn't. So then I should push it in the array, update the previous and the current values, and then get the next value. And let's erase this. When we have the next value, the next point of call should be to check if the next value is within the range before pushing it in, and then updating, and then getting there. For this code to work correctly, I'll need to change this to 2. So any number modulo 2 that is not equal 0 is automatically an odd number. So that covers such edge cases as 1, 5, 7, those numbers that are not divisible by 3. So now that I have changed this, and I run the code, I will have 10. Yeah. So I will make my modifications here. Then save, clear, and run. All right. So I have all these passed, all test cases passed. So now that I have this my test passed, I will push to the repository, my GitHub repository, and and run it and then pass the test there as well. But the in order to analyze the which is a constant, which gives me big O of 1, and this is the first loop, which is big O of n, and this is the second loop, which is big O of n. And the efficiency of this code is the biggest. The biggest here, which this is the linear time efficiency that we have here, and the big of n cancels out the big of 1. And since we have the big of n here, I have the big of n here. It means that the efficiency, the big O efficiency of this code, this result is big O of n. So in order to conclude this presentation, I would like to share some of the soft skills that have helped me in my learning process, mastery process up to this phase. And the first soft skill is time management. And in order to learn and master coding skills, programming skills, it means that a lot of time needs to be put in, needs to be invested in the learning process, mastery process, and execution process. Therefore, it has compelled me to manage my time wisely. And in order to do that, I set goals. I have a plan for my day, and that helps me stick to the activities per plan and ensure that I'm maximizing my time wisely, especially there is always something new to learn. There's always something more to learn in order for a person to improve his or her skills, his knowledge base, and produce better results. So teachability is one of the soft skills that I have trained myself to possess in order to help me learn more and not be static in my learning process. I cannot underestimate setting goals, the need for to set goals in order to become a great software engineer and make good progress as software engineer. Smart goals are goals that are specific, they are measurable, they are achievable, they are relevant and time bound. So for a goal to be specific and measurable and time bound, it means that I need to state what I want to achieve, um, the duration with which I want to achieve that goal in terms of the time duration, what I want to achieve, how I want to achieve it, that is measurable, and that it has to be for a stipulated duration. Achievable here means that I have to set a sequence of activities in order to achieve that goal. So a goal needs to be achievable. That is, it can be broken down into sets of activities that can eventually cause that goal to be achieved. So an example of a SMART goal is to say, in order to in order to complete a project within the time frame of 1 week, I have to code, work on each section of the project 5 hours every day. The main goal is to complete the project for a period of 1 week. So, in other words, the SMART goal to achieve the main goal is to say, I will uh, work on 1 or 2 sections every day for 5 hours in order to complete this project. So, it's measurable that by the end of 1 week, if I stay consistent, the project will be completed. So, thank you for going through this presentation. I am Ilugene Utiere, a passionate software engineer, and I'm constantly looking for more ways to learn and make impact in the